Lupin the First is probably one of the best children's movies released in the past couple years. I love the movie so much that I kind of would love to see it receive an Oscar or at least a nomination, especially because of the lack of good children's films coming out in 2020. Yes, there were some fairly good movies that came out this year, but Lupin the Third just hit different. I love the effort that you can see clearly put into this movie. The animation was amazing and the story was genuinely interesting. I have truly fallen in love with this film and the series in general, and also the characters, and I barely knew anything about Lupin. I knew that there was a series and I knew it was pretty popular back like 20 years ago, but I didn't know to the extent of this whole franchise. And I'm absolutely in love with it now, and I kind of really want to get into all of it. I'm planning on watching a lot of the movies and hopefully a lot of the seasons too of the show. But that's for another day. Before I go into spoiler territory, I am going to give a little bit of a non-spoiler review for the film. First, Lupin. I've always been aware of the previous versions and designs of Lupin, and the CGI version just does an amazing job at portraying him. The artist really put a lot of effort into portraying his personality through his facial expressions and his movement. And I'm really glad that they stayed loyal to the original character design. My sister also compared him to Tendo Satori from Haikyuu, which made me laugh hysterically. But she wasn't wrong, and I kind of love that though. The next character I wanted to talk about is Letitia. She is a pretty token plain female character, but I'm glad they still gave her personality and motivations. Most of the time, media portrays women without having actual goals or passions, and I'm so glad that they actually gave her an interest, which is archaeology, which is an amazing subject. And I'm so glad that they actually gave a female character motivations, aspirations, and a goal, which you don't see all the time, which I just love about this film. So now I'm just gonna try to speed run through the rest of the main characters. Jigen, I love him. He's pretty attractive. Me and my sister were totally something over him. Zenigata, the inspector, he has a great character design. Love the facial expressions he gives. They're really, really great. Fujiko's new design stays pretty loyal to the character, and it's pretty good. I don't have much to say about it. But also, Gyeomin, adorable. I love him. Very great character. And I love the sort of way he looks in this film. All of these characters except Letitia are from the original series, and their updates are very amazing. I love them. But also, they stay pretty loyal to the original series, which I love that they did, because most quote-unquote reboots don't do that, and this film just does a really good job at taking the original characters and giving them a little bit of a design change, but not too much, and they just do it really well. And you can clearly see that the artists and the writers really wanted to stay loyal to the original films and shows. I just love the character designs for this movie. They're so well done, and the CGI just makes these characters really pop out, and I love it so much. And I really have to say, the way that all of these characters are animated and just the dialogue makes these characters really, really fun to watch. I don't think I'll ever be able to express how much I love the animation in this movie. The animators clearly worked really hard on this film, and watching the iTunes extras just made me appreciate the animators even more. You can clearly see that they worked so hard, and you can see all the time they put into this movie to make it look so beautiful. I cannot express how good the lighting and the detailing in this film is. It's absolutely perfect. And somehow the animators were able to make the character movement cartoony and fluid at the same time, but it never took away from the story. And that really takes some talent. The framing in this movie was absolutely astounding. The way the camera moves and the small details that the screen will focus on, absolutely ingenious. The small things that the quote-unquote camera focuses on made the tone of the film so much better, and I really have to give it to the director, Takashi Yamazaki, for the way that the camera was moving throughout the film. It really goes to show the importance of framing your film correctly. It really can determine how good a film is. So now we're going to spoiler territory. So I'm just warning you now, if you don't want to get a little bit spoiled, I'm not going to be throwing a bunch of spoilers in this, but there's still going to be some spoilers, so this is your warning now. Overall, the story was wonderful. The main theme was great, and the way the story progressed was absolutely perfect. There's no way I can say enough about how impressed I am with how cohesive and well written the story is. The reveals may have not been impossible to figure out, but the movie was still very interesting. For example, when Letitia and Lupin are trying to open the diary, the code ended up being Letitia's name. It wasn't very hard to figure out. The code was going to be Letitia's name, but it still was fun to watch the characters figure that out. The message that this film was sending is absolutely wonderful. As the movie goes on, the main villains, Geralt and Lambert, slowly become more power-hungry and hysterical. It really shows how most people can't use power they are given correctly. This message is prevalent throughout the film, and I am so glad that a children's movie is actually teaching important message. Other than that, I think there were a little bit of problems with continuity, scientific aspects, and plot convenience, but overall, the story's small little flaws aren't important, and the film is still really great. Conclusion, Lupin the First is a really great movie, and I strongly recommend it. It's one of the first movies I've seen that sort of reboots a series and does a really good job at it. I honestly cannot get enough of this film and the franchise as a whole. I would genuinely rate this film a 9 out of 10. If I was being nitpicky, there are a little bit of continuity problems and scientific errors, but overall the film was great, and if you haven't seen Lupin the First, please watch it. It is so good, and it's one of the best children's movies I've seen in a really long time. I honestly haven't seen enough people talking about this movie, and that just kind of bothers me. So please go watch this movie. It really deserves a lot more attention than it's getting. So this is sort of like the outro. Thank you for watching this video if you actually made it this far. Please, if you haven't seen Lupin, please go watch it. It's so good. And please subscribe and like the video. This is my first YouTube video, so it's not very good. I'm trying to get better at recording and editing, but bear with me. And if you kind of like this, please subscribe, because I hope to make more content like this, not just for films, but for TV shows, anime, and music. So thank you, have a nice day, and make sure you drink some water.